The Last of Us Season 2 is out. Episode 4 is the latest, and it is bombing.
People hated The Last of Us Part 2. It was massively divisive.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting, and The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The creator of the show is finally speaking out about its failure. The Last of Us creator Craig Mazin admits Season 2 was a failure.
Bella Ramsey wasn't supposed to be a punchline. She was supposed to be the future. The bold, unshakable face of a franchise that had already dominated gaming and was now taking over television. But somewhere between the critics' applause and the audience's confusion, the spotlight turned into a firing squad, and everything came crashing down. And now, Bella Ramsey is reportedly blacklisted, while HBO quietly ghosts her behind the scenes. First came the cancellation, then the silence, and finally, the cold shoulder that obliterated what was left of her reputation. This isn't just a story about a show flopping. This is about how a rising star got chewed up by the same machine that made her famous. A season that was supposed to solidify her legacy ended up nuking her entire career. And the worst part? It didn't happen all at once. It happened one strange, silent decision at a time, until Bella realized she was completely alone. So, before we dive into the real madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The real bombshells are just getting started.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting, and The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The finale drew over 50% less than the finale of Season 1. You lost half of your audience.
Have you changed up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them. They're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
Bella Ramsey wasn't just cast, she was crowned. When HBO first introduced her as Ellie, fans were skeptical. But after the first few episodes of The Last of Us, she silenced nearly every critic. Reviewers called her performance visceral, groundbreaking, and career-defining. The Hollywood machine kicked into gear. Awards buzz started swirling. HBO doubled down on their decision, betting big on Bella to lead the franchise into the future. But by Season 3, something changed. And it wasn't just the writing. The tone had shifted. The raw, apocalyptic emotion that had once defined the series felt off. Audiences weren't connecting. Bella's portrayal of Ellie felt distant. And her off-screen interviews? They weren't helping. Instead of hyping up the series, Bella leaned hard into a narrative that alienated core fans. She pushed her own interpretations, brushed off criticism, and made it clear that she wasn't trying to please anyone. And in the era of fandom-first franchises, that kind of attitude is a ticking time bomb. But the real explosion? That came when Bella decided to rewrite Ellie entirely and call out the very audience that made her famous. In one interview, Bella boldly declared that Ellie didn't need love to be strong, that she wasn't here to be a symbol of romance or someone's idea of hope. She claimed Ellie was a new kind of character, not bound by the same expectations or rules. On paper, that's fine, but online, it was war. Fans, especially those who had followed Ellie's journey since the first Last of Us game, felt blindsided. Bella wasn't just offering a new take, she was tossing out a decade of beloved storytelling. She dismissed theories, mocked shipping culture, and even threw shade at the original game's emotional arc. Her most viral quote, "I didn't even finish the game. Didn't need to." And just like that, Bella went from the face of a movement to the villain of the fandom. TikTok flooded with reaction videos. Twitter melted down. YouTube creators turned Bella into clickbait gold. Thumbnail after thumbnail featuring her face in bold letters. Ruined Ellie. Why Bella's done. Goodbye, HBO. And while the internet was exploding, HBO was watching. Quietly, closely. Casey Bloys, the CEO of HBO, had been under pressure before. But never like this. The backlash was so widespread, so intense, that execs allegedly began whispering about damage control. Internally, sources say, the network started phasing Bella out. Fast. She was pulled from press tours, cut from promotional campaigns. Mentions of her on HBO's official channels slowed to a trickle. Rumors leaked that her future with the network was under review. And then the leak came. HBO was planning to terminate her contract after Season 3. Quietly and without fanfare. One insider described it as a corporate ghosting. Bella had no idea. She thought she was still their golden girl until she was left off the cast list for future projects. And when she reportedly found out, she broke down, in tears, saying she had no clue it was coming. But in Hollywood, the silence speaks volumes, and Bella was hearing it loud and clear. When The Last of Us Season 3 finally premiered, HBO was hoping for a rebound. What they got was a massacre. Fan ratings plummeted, Rotten Tomatoes dropped into the 40s, entire subreddits were flooded with angry reviews. Critics called it a misfire, confused, and soulless. The emotional weight that once defined the series had vanished, and the blame landed squarely on Bella's shoulders. The memes started immediately. The last of cringe. Game of woke. They joeled the show. YouTubers tore apart every episode frame by frame. One viral comment said, "This isn't The Last of Us, it's The Last of HBO." Another said, "Bella Ramsey destroyed Ellie with one facial expression." The harsh truth? HBO had invested everything in her, and now they were watching it all burn. The entertainment industry is a strange beast. It will build you up overnight, plaster your face across billboards, declare you the future, and then drop you without a word. That's exactly what Bella Ramsey was starting to realize. After the Season 3 disaster, it wasn't just fans pulling away, it was Hollywood itself. Bella's team reportedly tried lining up new roles, new campaigns, even a potential limited series on a rival streaming service. But something strange kept happening. The calls weren't being returned. Studios weren't biting. Casting directors were going in another direction. And worse, people were talking behind closed doors. Whispers grew louder. Executives labeled her a PR risk. One agent even leaked a brutal line to the trades. Bella Ramsey isn't just controversial, she's radioactive. Talent agencies, once fighting to represent her after Season 1, began quietly removing her from rosters. Endorsement deals vanished. Scheduled appearances were postponed indefinitely. A streaming platform reportedly pulled a project simply because they didn't want the Bella Ramsey discourse attached. Behind the scenes, her management scrambled to spin the narrative. They pitched her as misunderstood, misquoted, ahead of her time. But Hollywood didn't care. In an industry where perception is currency, Bella's value had plummeted. Fast. And perhaps the most painful cut of all, her own colleagues, the ones who once supported her, began distancing themselves. HBO actors who had publicly praised her in the past were now staying silent. Writers stopped tagging her in congratulatory posts. The warmth she once enjoyed turned to ice. One director who'd previously wanted to cast her in a passion project bluntly told Variety, "She's talented, no doubt, but right now, no one wants to deal with the noise." And that's the Hollywood rule no one says out loud. When the whispers start, it's already too late. When things started falling apart, people turned to HBO's top dog, Casey Bloys, and for answers. As CEO, Bloys had championed The Last of Us adaptation from day one. He had reportedly fought to cast Bella, pushed for her to lead the franchise, and stood behind her when critics questioned the decision. But even loyalty has limits. Behind closed doors, Bloys was reportedly furious. Not just about the backlash, but about how quickly the brand he helped build was unraveling. Sources claim that internal analytics showed a massive drop-off in viewer retention during Bella's screen time in Season 3. Focus group testing described her scenes as disengaging, overacted, and emotionally cold. But instead of confronting her, Casey did what most corporate titans do. He cut her off quietly. Executives were given strict PR instructions. Stop promoting Bella. Promotional materials were re-edited to emphasize ensemble cast members or retro footage from Seasons 1 and 2. Bella's interviews were scrubbed from the front page of HBO's press site. She was left out of award push campaigns. And then came the whisper that broke the internet. Caitlin Dever was in talks to take over as Ellie. The reaction was nuclear. Some fans cheered, calling Dever the true Ellie. Others were outraged, claiming Bella was being scapegoated. But one thing was clear. Casey Bloys wasn't backing down. Internally, he described the Season 3 disaster as an unforced error that cost us brand trust. Privately, he wanted Bella gone. Insiders claimed he was already working on a reboot or spin-off that would course-correct the franchise. The words rebrand and recast were tossed around like confetti. Bella, once HBO's prize asset, was now a marketing problem to be solved. And when Casey was asked, off the record, whether he still saw Bella as part of HBO's future, he reportedly laughed and said, What future? For Bella, the silence from her former allies hurt, but the betrayal from the man who once believed in her, that was the final cut. Hollywood might have iced Bella out, but the internet was burying her, and they weren't even pretending to be subtle about it. Across platforms like TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube, a new genre of content began exploding: Bella fallout videos. Creators analyzed her interviews line by line, pointing out every smug response, every dismissive tone. They stitched in clips of fan reactions, crying scenes from the game, and called her performance in Season 3 soulless cosplay. Some videos racked up millions of views in days. One thread on Reddit even launched an entire conspiracy theory that HBO had always planned to recast her after Season 2, and Season 3 was just a sacrificial season to justify it. Another post claimed Bella had alienated the writer's room so badly, they stopped defending her in script meetings. Whether true or not, the rumors spread like wildfire. And then came the resurfaced clips. In one particularly viral video, Bella was seen casually saying, "I didn't really care for the original game, to be honest," followed by a shrug and laughter. That one sentence, that laugh, became a symbol of what fans now saw as arrogance, disrespect, and disconnection from the source material. Even Pedro Pascal's silence was weaponized. Pedro knew, tweets read. He knew and stayed quiet. Fans combed through every photo, every red carpet, every press conference for signs of tension, and they found them. Or at least, they convinced themselves they did. And in the middle of it all, Bella stayed quiet. No apology, no explanation, no deflection, just silence. For her supporters, it was admirable. For her critics, it was more fuel to the fire. And in the court of public opinion, silence isn't just guilt, it's admission. By now, the narrative had spiraled beyond control. Bella Ramsey, once hailed as the future of HBO, was now a cautionary tale, a reminder that no amount of talent can save you when the industry and the audience turns its back. But the question lingered like smoke after a fire. Could she come back? Her team reportedly floated options: a gritty independent film, a Broadway comeback, a vulnerability-filled interview to set the record straight. There was even talk of a Dancing with the Stars approach, the redemption through humility route. But Bella wasn't having it. She refused to apologize, refused to retreat, refused to change her stance. To some, it was brave. To most, it was career suicide. And the industry noticed. Multiple insiders confirmed that A24, a studio once interested in Bella, had passed on her for a lead role in a major project. A Netflix miniseries dropped her from consideration. One casting agent even told a reporter, "Bella Ramsey is box office poison right now. She needs time and she needs humility." But that's the thing, humility can't be faked. And time doesn't heal when no one's watching. Unless Bella radically retools her image or lands a role so good it forces Hollywood to forgive her, she's stuck in limbo. Too controversial for prestige TV, too divisive for franchises, too proud for redemption arcs. As one critic said in a review, "She played Ellie like she didn't care. Now the industry's playing her the same way." And in a business built on second chances, Bella's might have already expired. Bella Ramsey walked into HBO's spotlight with fire in her chest and the world at her feet. She was bold, she was different, she was unforgettable. But somewhere along the way, she forgot the one rule every star has to learn: the audience is the kingmaker. And when you lose them, you lose everything. She tried to redefine Ellie. She tried to reshape the narrative. But in doing so, she alienated the very people who put her on that throne. And now, the throne is empty, the stage is dark, and the network that once called her the future is pretending she never existed. What started as a dream role became a disaster. Not because Bella wasn't talented, but because talent isn't enough. You need timing, you need humility. And above all, you need to understand who's watching. Because in Hollywood, when they're done with you, they don't just close the door. They erase your name from the credits. So long, Ellie. So long, Bella.